Hey, welcome back, folks. For those of you who have likely came here because you've seen the 5 versus 5 aggro advent build guide that actually seemed to have gotten some traction and popularity on thanks to various social medias and have requested more. So I'm glad that the previous guide helped. This is Kissblade coming back with another replay review of just a different build order. And once again, this is a guide for ideally someone who are looking to get and pick up Advent for either PvP or maybe just looking for a build order to use because they're learning Advent to play against the AI for the first time. Now, that being said, a little bit of context. My name is Kissblade. My background is primarily in playing in more competitive PvP lobbies, so the build order is more suited towards that sort of playstyle, specifically for 5 versus 5, where there are various strategies and components depending on your position in the map, and I'll kind of cover that as we go. So this specific replay was a more recent game where it was against in a public lobby setting. So the skill level of this lobby is potentially a little bit lower than some of the other games I would prefer to show. But I haven't had time to play some of the more competitive lobbies as of late. So this was just a game where I jumped into, and I am actually in this what we are calling the support position. And the support position in a 5 versus 5, if we just kind of take a look at the map, means that we are going to be right behind one of the flanks. So for those of you who have looked at my other videos may recall I did a video much like this earlier, but the quality of the audio was much worse, and also I was completely new to OBS. I fiddled around with it, so hopefully this one's a little bit more of an improvement. So with that being said, let's jump right in. So when we start things off, let's take a look at just how the map layout goes. And you'll notice here that in terms of where I am located, I am playing red over here. And this is going to essentially be my cluster. My ally who is, one of my allies who I will be supporting in the aggro position is blue over here. Zach, I can't quite pronounce. Let's just call him the blue player for now. I've bumped into him once in the at a public game, and he did pretty okay, but seemed like he might be a little bit inexperienced in terms of how to execute certain strategies. So you will notice also in the chat I gave him some help. Now in this specific game, I was up against a three Chinese players, two of which I recognized from before. So I kind of set them to the opposite team to play against me because I essentially just wanted uh, some opponents where I knew they were going to have some at least good competition, and I thought it might make a good game, and they didn't let me down in that regard. So my opponent here is X-Wing, very highly regarded as a PvP player in both the Sins 1 community. To my understanding, I didn't play Sins 1 significantly, and also in the Chinese PvP scene. I can't pronounce or even read, obviously, these two other players' names, but they are in the respective eco and also support position mirroring us. So I knew it was going to be a little bit difficult because I didn't know anything about my other allies. But that's not going to be really the point of the game of this review. This review is more to kind of give you a general idea of a build order I am theorizing for this current patch. This build order may not be the best build order to use. In fact, it's very likely not the best build order to use, but it's stable. And I'll also talk a little bit about some of the decision-making processes that went behind this build order, as well as some potential strategies we can do within the first 40-45 minutes of this game. Okay, so okay, let's kick things off. As always, max out mining, and then followed by max out commerce, and then we start a rapture, as well as a few disciples to kind of queue things up, just to help out with the early expansion clear. In addition, because I am in the support position here this time, I have a little bit more space to essentially eco up and hopefully get a higher quality fleet so that by the time I make it to my ally, I am able to essentially win what is going to be the 2v2 between white and teal here. So speaking of the 2v2 between white and teal here with me and blue, let's take a look at the map layout and give some thoughts, okay? So one thing I didn't notice about this map was that there were rotating orbitals on. So certain decisions I made actually didn't factor that in. But what I'm seeing here is very likely this asteroid is going to be very nice for as a point of contention, simply because, as you can see, it's pretty close to teal. Lets me reinforce them pretty easily. It lets me kind of also have two different pathways to kind of get to teal and so forth. So this asteroid is nice. This ice planet should be one of the choke points that we rush from blue side, as well as this asteroid over here. And what's kind of neat about this scenario is the fact that actually there's two fronts that blue and teal can fight from. So it becomes a little bit of a fleet movement game, and I think that if blue really, really wanted to be aggressive and creative, he can actually abuse the fact that teal technically would have to defend from two fronts. Because the Vasari versus Advent matchup is actually pretty neat. You can't quite just spam defenders against Advent, because if they go, they will now all start Tempests, and Tempests just absolutely crush defenders. But there is some opportunity to actually do potential raiding, because you have two lines of access here. Okay. Um, in addition, this particular asteroid, even though I like it as a forward setup, I end up not settling here because of the fact that you'll notice it has a pretty chunky garrison, and this could get very annoying to kind of like mind where my units are spawning out of and so forth. So for the sake of expediency, I set up here. I don't think this is necessarily the best place to set up, because the ice can get me much closer towards in terms of just making it to blue if I need to defensively. Whereas this asteroid, I actually have to kind of like push up around here. So ideally, I would have liked to maybe set this up initially here, and then use this as an initial just kind of like forward base, and maybe get something closer either here or even better here. But this was just too tricky for me to hold, because white basically beat me there, and also green started making his way up there very, very soon. So, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So yeah, other than that, I think I actually have a pretty nice spawn, because I have a bunch of different asteroids. Garrisons aren't very tough, and these planets are very nice in terms of just supplementing the ratio of minerals and crystals and so forth. Blue has a uglier spawn. He's kind of locked into the mono pathway, but as I said, for an aggressive faction as blue, this is actually not too bad, because of the fact that he has two pathways of attack, and you really want to do like some early damage to Advent, especially if you can get to him and hit him before he starts Tempest blobbing. So in terms of my build, for this that I utilize this one, it's the 4-0 opening, and what I mean by that is you have 4 points in Harmony Research as soon as possible, and you don't have any military at all, simply because you're not going to you're probably not going to be able to afford any military research in the beginning anyway. So why bother, right? So yeah, which means I start off with the Orbital Harmony Lab, and then I have a 3-point Harmony Research thing over here going. So, alright, let's fast forward a little bit. And as you can already see in this, I basically just kind of already give blue a little bit of a heads up, because as I said, I know from a previous game I've had against him, he's a little inexperienced, I think, in essentially the meta. So I just give him a heads up that, like, hey, he's gonna likely mass Tempest, and then you can see, like, he basically says, should he build LF, which stands for light frigates, and I said, no, you ideally want to get more capital ships, because Tempests have a hard time dealing with them, and Advent in general, that's one of the blinds or weaknesses of Advent early game, is they have a hard time against Vasari Capital Rush, specifically the Court Hull. And then you'll notice I also say, like, well, you can also do light frigates, because in order for Tempest to beat light frigates, you do need to micro, and I mentioned, well, X-Wing is a Chinese player, So it's possible he's gonna have extra lag, meaning he might not micro as effectively. So in which case, Light Frigates from Vasari will actually deal very well against Tempests. But if the Tempest player does micro, Light Frigates actually perform very very poorly against them because the Tempest can essentially just keep making them turn over and over again, and the amount of DPS uptime you get is very minimal. So I initially start off by wanting to kind of like roll in here and clear this. Stealing the Siege Trigger was actually a mistake. You actually do not want to steal the Siege Trigger usually. If you recall from my previous video, you want to steal the guard up because it lets your strike craft do more damage. It lets your missiles also start doing damage and so forth. So I got the Siege Trigger, and the first thing I'm going to do with it is I think I either suicided. I think, yeah, I just go ahead and suicide it up ahead, and I just send it here and let it just die off on its own. Because it's totally pointless to have the Siege Frigate this early. And also, you lose a little bit of XP by stealing the Siege Frigate. The Siege Frigate gets 55 XP. On the plus side, the Siege Frigate is a little bulkier, so you do clears faster. I go down this route first because my plan was to essentially go here. Obviously, starting from here, go to this asteroid, go to this volcano, go here. And then as I'm making it here, I would ideally like to start splitting my forces. So in other words, my full expansion force is going to be Rapture and a few Disciples. By the time I get over here to this asteroid, I would like to basically split off my Disciples to cap this, my Rapture to start capping here. They will converge over here, and then I will probably send my Rapture over here while I send my the smaller ships towards the front. This actually turned out probably not to be the best decision because at that time I did not know that there was such a big stack here. And we're going to see how I kind of deviate from that a little bit in terms of the expansion strat. But that was the one I was going for. So you're going to see that I do some pretty standard things in terms of what I mentioned from previous video. As soon as my Rapture makes it through this asteroid, I'll start leading with it so that it's the one tanking because the neutrals will fire the closest stuff, while my Disciples kind of like just start shooting unimpeded. And then as my Disciple is kind of cleaning this stuff up, I'm already moving the Rapture to the next area because I wanted the Rapture to get there first, and so on and so forth, right? And you can see here, I'm a little sloppy with my micro this game because of the fact that I actually haven't played for a while. So this is not the most optimal. I should have actually stolen one of the smaller ships, but I didn't. But it's not a big deal, you know. So I used the nanites because in terms of the research pathing, I would go, as if you recall, I always recommend getting the influence early because if you have any minor factions revealed, because the pirates are good and the colony nanites are good. So if we didn't have a Vasari alliance to reveal this early on, but we do have a tech primacy. Tech primacy are very common. You still have the pirates revealed. I would still recommend getting this. Otherwise, you probably want to push the Temple of Pilgrimage earlier so that this way you could colonize with the Pilgrimage. But you could also build a colony ship. This part is kind of more flexible and up to you. And then following, I like to go for the Thriving Desert city here. And then I liked, as you can see, after the Thriving Desert, I started with selective harvesting just for that cheap early boost. I get that researched. And then the next one I get is actually this booming desert cities. And not only is it for the extra credit income, but it's also for the fact that it gives you more civilian slots, which is kind of nice. I have 2 extra civilian slots now. I have 4 extra civilian slots in my home planet, and that lets me start basically using it to pump out both the military lab here. As you can see, I'm already starting up level 1 at about this time, and then I can also plan on building this Temple of Communion. And the reason why this Temple of Communion is really nice is it starts spreading your culture, which helps you set up for this Crystal Communion. And this Crystal Communion is very, very powerful once you actually have it unlocked, because this 0.3 crystal mining rate per friendly system, which includes your own planets, may not seem like a big deal in terms of surface mining rate, but actually that rate also gets boosted by each of these subsequent bonuses. So actually it ends up adding quite a bit, especially if you're in a volcano asteroid kind of heavy setting or primarily, and you don't have a whole lot of ice. Okay, so in this game, I actually have 2 ice planets, so technically you don't necessarily need to go for this as early. But this one, I was kind of like I was planning on also potentially using this as a replay review game anyway when I was doing it. So this was a build order I was just kind of testing to see how it goes. So you can give it a shot as well and adjust some of these research paths accordingly. But this is just a framework of research I would go for. And when this is finished, and as you can see, I've researched some of my initial text. I'm up to about to colonize my third system. At that point, I already have then my first military, and I'm preparing to essentially go Hostility 1 and Tempest 1, just so this way I can start building some Tempests early on to add some extra fleet and also to speed up the expansion as well in terms of the clearing. And part of the reason why I like doing this is because the whole point of this Rapture is, yes, it's quite nice for just dominate and doing a quite quick clear and supplementing your fleet with some extra ships this way. But also the main power curve of the Rapture comes at level 6, where it gets Malice, which is a very game-changing sort of spell. And in order to get there as soon as possible, you do want to kind of like start just clearing ships, so this way the Rapture is picking up that experience. So something that apparently folks don't realize is if you are clearing enemy ships and there are no capital ships of you or your allies in the system, then that XP goes to your capitals globally. So when I split off and start like clearing stuff in multiple different systems, if I only have just this one Rapture, it'll start leveling up pretty quickly. So you're gonna see that by the time we really start fighting, I actually get to level 6 pretty quick, pretty early on. So as I mentioned, at this point, you can look at the 8-minute mark. I finished Hostility, and I am planning to essentially start on Tempests. I finished this, and I'm starting on Temple of Communion. And while I have a little bit of downtime, I'm going to start the Temple of Communion soon here at my home planet, just to spread culture from there. And you'll notice I also decide that since I have the nanites, I have the logistics, I'll do the Temple of Communion here too. And the main reason why is so this way I can spread the culture and also start helping our pink player who is next to me, who is our eco player. Now, pink technically should be doing the same thing already. He shouldn't need me to spread culture to him. If anything, he should be like trying to push his culture to me so that this way I could pick up his stronger ego bonuses, which comes up around here. But as I mentioned, I think pink is likely a more inexperienced player because this is more of a public lobby setting. So I just do this just to like kind of help give him a little bit of extra ego boost as well. And this was a nice planet to kind of like start with, to start pushing culture from anyway, because it's going to push around here. Now, one other thing, if I could have went for a different expansion route. I could have actually instead came from my desert, came to this asteroid. And from this asteroid, it's actually a very nice temple pilgrimage scenario. And if I chose to do that, what I could do is I could rapture, clear this with my disciples, build maybe 2 or 3 extra disciples, and then go from here with my disciples, and then with my disciples follow up over here into clearing this. That's also totally fun. That would have probably, I don't know if this would have been a better expansion path, but it definitely would have been a better one if I attempted to just wanted to go forward ASAP. In other words, I want to just start by 2v1ing X-Wing. That wasn't the strat I was going for this game. I think if I went for it, this game probably would have been a little bit easier. But as I said, I was experimenting with a different build order. I wanted to try something where we're going to actually try to transition from Tempest to Illuminators while still maintaining a good fleet supply. Okay, so we're going to see how that build plays out. Alright, so once again, not much going on. As I said, I kind of do the expansion route clearing as we can see. So let's take a look at a few other texts that I will pick up along the way. I generally like to get all 3 of these. If I'm going 4-0, I try to get all 3 of these as early as I can. And usually when I finish picking up this, I would then get all 3 of these, because then this 0.3 would end up turning into a roughly like a 4.5 surface mining rate, which is going to be really nice crystal income at this point, right? We see here we got 6 already. I'm hitting 6.4 crystal income, even though I have no ice. So let's look at like some how, like for example, how pink is doing. Having because of the fact that pink actually has 2 ice, and you can see here pink is hitting 6.4 with 2 ice. Okay, and I haven't even spread my culture yet. That I'm just getting that a little bit of a bump from here, and also my surface mining. Let's take a look at pink's. Actually, pink is doing a similar idea, but he's skipping this. Okay, and we can also look at another player that I purposely put on the other team to play against because, as I said, he's a well known in the Chinese PvP, considered very highly regarded. And you'll also see, I didn't actually like X-Wing's build. I initially planned on kind of stealing his build from this game to just take a look at, but I thought this was like a super greedy build. He's going for here, he's going for the extra influence, and he's going for exotic refinery, probably to pump out some another cap. I thought this was like a mega greedy build. I disagree with it, so I decided to, hey, I'm not gonna bother showcasing that one. Well, but let's take a look at his econ. Right, 6.6. But as I said, he's going for a slightly greedier build, and as you can see, he also is going for the surface mining thing. And that surface mining is actually a build order I copied from the Chinese Advent community. I picked it up from a replay that a previous PvPer named Kid Ride, who is quite good, shared with me. Alright, so now let's take a look and just keep going and see where we are. So because of the fact that I have managed to pick this up, the Booming Desert, you can see here I'm able to set up 2 more military Temple Hostility Labs here, and also a Temple Hostility Lab planet item that I'm setting up over here, which will get me to that 4, because I want to start heading to getting higher fleet supply, getting shield burst, and also the anima redirect potentially, depending on how which direction I'm thinking of going. So all key Texans, as I mentioned before, generally I will try to get this as I'm getting this, I will start researching these 2 just because of the fact that they will lead to potentially certain research pathing that I'm going to be interested in. Also, as I mentioned in my previous video, I will recommend picking up divination, and the reason why I will pick up divination is this way I can start surveying these planets for, ideally, if you get lucky, some artifacts, and also selling off the exotics that I don't really care about, and potentially saving the exotics for a second capital ship, ideally like a progenitor or a second rapture, if I decide to come to that. Okay, so moving things along. As I mentioned, everything here is kind of like going as expected. So I pick up a few exotics, and some of the ones I would recommend getting rid of is I would recommend selling Tauronite to the market. I don't particularly find Radiance too useful early on, so the extra money instead from the Tauronite I find it more helpful. But once again, things may change. And for those of you who have kind of paid attention to my written guide, I would only recommend serving level 1 of Volcano and level 1 of Ices to kind of like sell to the market. The other levels, they're not actually as cost efficient to do a survey and to sell. I believe Mathematico from the Sins PvP Discord did a calculation breakdown of it. So that's where I got this idea from of okay, I'm going to scry certain stuff and then sell them, and I'll get back more resources than it took for me to scry stuff. And plus I have a potential bonus of getting lucky with an artifact, which can be very game changing for some of them. So alright, and I think I might have even picked up this red from a derelict or something. I'm not sure where I got the red from. Might be, actually I think it was an asteroid. So once again, same old thing. Let's take a look at what are some other stuff that I have potentially picked up here. So this has finished researching. I of course have to pick up the ice, And at this point, there are some things I would say you can start thinking about. One of the things I am experimenting a bit with, I'm not convinced about this confluence unity, is because it just makes your culture spread a little bit faster. And once again, as I said, this is kind of nice because it means that all your planets that has your culture, if you have researched this tech, is going to start generating crystal. And you can see here I'm up to 10.4 crystal. Let's compare it to some of the other players. X-Wing is also doing a fairly greedy-ish build. You can see he's at 8.6. And let's look at now the other advent on our side. And you can see here, Dale, despite having 2 ice planets over me, he's only at 7.7. I'm at 10.4, and I'm already getting taxed on it. So technically, I think it should have been like 10.7. So as you can see already, this is where this culture spread surface mining thing is paying off, right? And he should be getting it soon over here on this planet. So I clear this, same stuff here. Ideally, you want to start stealing the Javelies, because Javelies are going to help you with basically messing around with the cap ship, dealing some damage to the cap ships. Very, very, very important to be stealing Javelies against Vasari, because of the fact that this is your main way of dealing with the cap ship rush, is hopefully you have like 3 or 4 Javelies, and then you can really, really actually start taking it towards the cap rush. So you can see here, that's also why I picked up boarding crew, is because this way I could get more Javelies as well. Alright, so as you can see, once again, going with what I just mentioned, I'd usually go to tier 2 for secondary, anima, and then fleet supply. And you can see here, I'm already starting to build some Tempests. And here, I want to talk about how, like, from the support position, you can actually have a good amount of buffer space to work with. You'll be floating some initial resources because you're not going to be fleeting as aggressively right off the bat. So I also pinged to Gauss here from my team, and Pink was also very willing to follow up with it, so that was good. So later on there was quite a few amount of Gausses here, which forms a nice sturdy line of defense. And you can see here, X-Wing's already realizing this is one of the chokes, so I'm going to build some defenses here. This was actually pretty smart of him, because Blue actually is deciding to go some Raiders, just to see if he could like do some initial damage. And also even Green puts a Gauss here. Really nice from my teammates in terms of on the team, even though they are more from the public side of lobby side of things, they kind of like are recognizing that, hey, this is you know, a good thing to do right in here, because this could be a very contested point. And as we can see, he's kind of like clearing and stuff. Yeah, so standard stuff from all around. All right, let's keep going. And you, oh, actually, no. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other stuff to pick up. So the metal, these 2 metal research is also quite important, because the fact that your Tempests actually do eat up a good amount of metal, and then when you transition to Illuminators, you will really notice that you are going to start buying a good amount of metal to kind of support the Illuminous build. In addition to that, also Haven Dome, mainly because I recognize I have a bunch of asteroids, and I know I plan on going for Illuminators, so that will add up in terms of cost as well. So you want credits for that scenario, and then same thing here, Sanctuary Spire. And the Sanctuary Spire is part of another reason why I am surveying the specific planet, some of my planets, mainly because you want to kind of try to get lucky, especially off your asteroid. Hopefully you could get a little lucky off your volcano and your ice, because you can see here, you're not guaranteed any Endurium yet. So you're guaranteed Endurium, I believe, off your home world at some point, at a certain tier, but you're not guaranteed Endurium on any of them. So trying to like just look for some whites, which is what you need for the Sanctuary Spire, is quite important, because of the fact that I believe the ones that are guaranteed to pop up for Endurium is Terran, which you will not be able to clear anytime soon in the beginning of the game. So I was able to get I believe 2 whites, which lets me pop up a Sanctuary Spire here, and I believe I pop up one here, for the ice because ice also generates a fair amount of income. Of course, put this on a primordial can instead. In addition, I also pick up the Illuxian Commerce credit income flat rate. Now, I don't know if this boost gets boosted by the sanctuary. I don't know the math and the mechanics behind all of this, but once again, as I said, credit income is going to be really important because I plan on transitioning to Illuminators at some, like ideally as soon as possible. So, all right, we're kind of just keep going, etc. And you can see here, X-Wing is looking to be a little bit aggressive. So his goal is probably just cap this and then start building also defenses here and really basically block blue off. So blue actually is able to score a bit of a win here because blue does go multiple caps. He has his Garantra at this point already. So he's going to eventually be able to get here. He spots this and he's able to actually push X-Wing off this, as you can see here. So here we can see we got 13 skirmishers, 2 Conrads. He's starting the Conrad transition. And X-Wing, he doesn't actually micro. The Tempest, as I mentioned, he's on Chinese ping, so their micro usually tends to be a little bit weaker. So as a result, blue is able to just basically outfleet him here and force him to go back. And then blue is able to clean this, and blue just keeps chasing. So this is a great move from blue. So I see this and I'm like, okay, I want to start trying to like get to an early place to like start fleeting up. And you can see, as I said, I start fleeting up over here. 2 lesser and 1 greater, because you can see now at this point, I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to research this for extra experience because I just plan on doing then a few extra capital ships. And the reason why I want to do a few extra capital ships is because of the fact that we have 2 Terran players here. And I know that they are going to very likely come towards the teal side of things. And Terran players are, or not Terran, sorry, this is a start, that's a start, 2 tech players. And tech players, one of them is Primacy, and the Primacy is going to likely start sending the pirate heavy cruisers towards us, and those are very nice for caps to essentially spam out boarding parties and just grab them for free. So, and also in addition, because we have an aggro advent is likely the Tempest spam, and Tempests are they're not a great answer to capital ships. So as you can see, there's a lot of different there's basically a good amount of different advantages to going going for heavier capitals. So that's why I'm actually going for this ritualized instructions, because the level 2 cap ship, the two different spells are quite useful. For Progenitor, you have the Unity and the Shield Restoration. For Rapture, you have Vertigo and you have Dominate. So, yeah. And now you're going to see what I meant by this really annoying Direct, because unless I set all my ships to engage close, what's going to happen is every ship I send through here or I build here, they're going to try to engage on this Direct. So what you see me do is actually I'm going to try to kite some of these Javelins out away from the Harkas, so that this way I have an easier time dealing with the Javelins. Right? So you can see here, I'm just kind of like... And then once my Rapture gets here, I'm like, okay, now that these Harkas are actually now of a plus, because I could dominate, and I could boarding party to grab a few of them. And this is a very fat Derelict. Okay? This is a healthy amount of resources, which is like, give or take something like 15, 20 Illuminators right there alone. And it's got 2,000 XP to help me get to that mallet. So this is really, really juicy, but it was a little annoying because then it takes some time to actually set up a forward base here. So, okay, I grab that, colonize this already, so this way I can start setting up. And as you can see, as soon as I set it up, upgrade logistics, set up more factories, and this time I'm setting up greater factories because, as I said, this is more of a downstream move. I plan on going for Illuminators. I'm going for Guardians right now because of the fact that Guardians are what I plan on building out of these greater factories, because later, once I transition to Illuminators, I don't plan on building more Guardians at that point. All the greater factories are going to be building Illuminators only. This is also kind of nice because Guardians do not cost any credits. They're also the same spread of resources as Tempests. So I have a nice bank to start building Illuminators once I transition into them. I also have, notice I have a lot of blues. So At this point, I also pick up telepathic relay for my asteroids to be able to start doing some influence plays as well. Some of the nice influence plays you can do: looting crew for your rapture is going to print a lot of money once you get malice. We're going to see that in. And also, I was thinking of getting Pronost for the defensive squad call down against raids, and also picking up Jiskun for the raiding ability as well. So those are things, different things I wanted to consider. Uh, so I went for also some telepathic relays. I'm I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sold on telepathic relays. Actually, funny enough, I have lost a lot of games I went for this. So, maybe, experiment on your own. But this is what I chose to go for because I noticed, okay, I just have so many blues. I don't plan on building this many cap ships early on. So, might as well use them because otherwise the alternative is selling them. I think actually selling them might not have been a bad idea either in this case. So as you can see, as I said, as I am researching ritualized instructions, about when it gets to halfway, I will start building capital ships. Because basically your next capital ship will finish, but after this finishes, if you kind of queue up your capital ships about halfway when this is there. So this way, all my capital ships are starting off at level 2 in terms of freshly produced. As you can see, my mothership, which I said I'm going for, and then my second rapture, which is I'm going to queue up in the kind of scale up in this way. Now, this second rapture is actually pretty important because I am going to tell you that right now the meta for PvP at the higher, more competitive lobbies is missile boat spam, and missiles are going to be the counter to capitals. So I actually get this second rapture because against good players, you're going to want to get this malice off, and you're going to want to do a lot of damage with a good malice. You can wipe out, like, say, 100 ships. Okay? But they are probably going to kill this rapture that went and did the malice. So you actually want the second rapture to pick up all the experience. So this way, your second rapture can also get malice from the XP from the because of the kills that the first rapture helped me get. So usually, I would always recommend having at least 2 raptures for this reason. It's your experience insurance. Okay. So as I mentioned before, I like to max out vertigo and then scale up dominate. I just ignore vengeance. So and also you'll notice I should have mentioned this before. Throw away the starting item, sell it right off the bat. Gives you some extra resources to help kind of like jumpstart your econ. Okay, so let's just keep going. Nothing too exciting happens here. Blue is making a nice push over here with his Conrax. So I think he's starting to do some damage and really kind of take X-Wing's attention. At this point, I made a slight mistake. I would say I admit this was very sloppy with me. I'm a little rusty at this point. I should have been feeding Blue because he's obviously being very aggressive, making the right plays. I can back him up here, but I have 9,000 credits I'm not really using. Yeah, I plan on using it because as you can see, now at this point I am heading towards tier 3 for the Illuminators, but it's going to be a while to get there. I can sell all of this. I'm probably not going to I'm not going to need this 9,000 credits for like another, say, probably 15 minutes. So at that point, if he had this 9,000 credits translated all into extra ships, then we could be doing a lot more damage. So this was a mistake on my part. But we can also see here actually it turned out to kind of luckily been the right decision. Blue is also a little bit, as I mentioned, inexperienced. He's floating a lot because he's max fleet capped. As Vasari, he needed to go 1-8. So he actually has the reds to kind of like do some extra planets and stuff, but he got this volcano too slow for the extra planet item lab thing that gives more military. So he needed to go for the 8th military because this is the weak point of Asari, as I mentioned in my last video. At this point, your Advent player will always outfleet a Vasari player on aggro. Why? Because he's stuck at the 600, and as an Advent, you're not stuck at 600. So, mistakes made by both of us, but as I said, this was not the like kind of like a super high skilled competitive lobby. But he's still doing the right things though. He's being aggressive, pressuring two different flanks, as you can see. Against, I think, a lot of other players, this would have worked. But as I said, X-Wing read this really well. He already has laser defenses set up here on his production side. And he has defenses actually even set up here on his at his homeworld, where he's basically building Tempest just to defend against this. So he saw saw it coming, and he was already able to react appropriately. I also caught a whiff of white. As you can see, I always recommend going for clairvoyance off this. That's the most important skill in terms of unity in the game. And also I went for knowledge aggregation. Once again, as I said, very important for when you're planning on going to tier 3. It's going to take forever otherwise. So you see here, after I get that, I will max out my research here, or max out my research here, and eventually I'm planning on maxing out research here. And actually, that's the other reason why I decided to go for Arctic development. It's really just for that extra research, as well for the extra credits here. At this point, Crystal is less useful. But I will also mention that at some point I do pick up side credit mint unlock for my ice planets as well, because this way they can start converting their crystal income into credits, because once again, as I said, I plan on transitioning to pure Illuminator soon. So you can see here, I'm going to try to back up and hit from two fronts. And part of the reason why I'm also doing this is because you can see white is going here. And I really do not want white to go from here to here. Or from here to here. Because that's going to make my life very, very, very annoying. Because then I'm going to have to fight multiple different flanks. So ideally, I want to actually pull white here. So by going here, I'm basically saying, hey, we're double teaming teal. If you don't come, he's dead. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to signal to white, to try to basically pull his fleet here from this ice, so that and put the more aggression play into him. And you can see white responds, starts already moving his stuff away. And also you can see green is also moving towards us. And as I see this, I'm realizing, okay, I'm going to be in a 1v3 soon, because teal is going to send some smaller forces here soon as well. And you can see he's already moving his Rapture towards this direction. He's starting to group up certain Tempests that he's producing from his wall to jump here. And so green already shows up here. And I'm like, okay, I can still fight green. So I'll whittle down some, but I'll start moving towards the exit of the gravity well. Because once white shows up, I know my fleet here isn't quite that big yet, because I'm still trying to make the transition to Illuminators. So I just want to do a little bit of damage to thin out the Kobold squad here, and pick off some small ships. And if they don't respond, I can do more damage. But if they do, I am going to obviously pull back to this ice planet, okay? Which is what you're going to see me do in a bit. And let's see, how's my Rapture doing? Oh, my Rapture is not even there yet. So that's another reason why I can't quite take that fight yet. My Rapture is level 6, as you can see from derelict earlier. And I am going to be jumping everything back soon. And once I jump everything back from here, good, they don't get anything, I think. Yeah. They might have picked off one Guardian. I know that they're gonna move through here, and then move through here, and then try to get to blue here. So at this point, you're gonna see that I'm gonna type in chat that, hey, 3's coming. And I tell blue, and I start scanning this. And as soon as I scan that the fleet, I look at which way the fleet is moving. It's obvious which way, obviously now, once you clairvoyance this, it's obvious which way the fleet is moving. So as soon as I see that, you'll notice I'm going to jump right back in. Why? Because I know they're not going to come back. They've already committed. They can't just keep, doing nothing with this fleet. So they have to commit in one direction. They're going to commit left. So I tell blue, as soon as I see them make this jump, I tell blue to run now. Now, actually, this is a little early, and you can see blue did a great job in picking off this Halcyon. This is a little early for me to say it, but the reason why is because you want to give your ally some time in advance, because they're going to be busy. So they won't necessarily react as soon as you want. So by telling him like at this point, you're going to see like run now, and he's starting to, and by the time he makes it to this exit of the gravity well, green just showed up, right? So now that happens, of course, now what I'm going to do, as I said, I immediately jumped here. I'm going to try to I want to pick off green's reinforcements, for starters, if I can. I want to knock out some factories and the defenses here. And I want to pull them back to me. And then when I do that, I can tell blue, hey, like, you could jump back right back, right? And this is what the game plan is. So you can see as soon as I see green, I pick off a few, and I know that, okay, white's going to jump. I don't want to get double teamed. I'm going to exit first. This was probably a little premature, actually, in hindsight. Okay? Mainly because this fleet's not really that big. I actually had a stronger fleet, in my opinion, because I had the level 6. But I wasn't quite... I didn't have, like, the micro to kind of, like, get everything in the right place, have my Rapture welcome them with my other ships here. I didn't really have a close look at White's composition yet. I didn't get a good chance to like look at it, so I didn't know what it was composed of. But I think it was a bit of a mistake by just exiting that early. That, and I also thought that green was a little bit faster. I thought green was going to appear with white, but it turned out white actually came back earlier. So, bit of a misplay on my side. I think I could have stayed just a little bit longer. So I jump back now, and my goal is to say, okay, I'm going to try to do some damage here at this ice, and I tell blue, you can jump back here, because the idea that I'm hoping they respond with is that blue jumps back here to this ice, and then teal will actually try to fight him here, and then this way I can actually 2v1 green and white. And I know I can win the 2v1 at this ice planet, because why? We have a lot of Gausses, and I have this Malice. So that's what I was hoping to happen. Okay, we'll see. Does it actually happen? And then when I clairvoyance here, I'm like, it's probably not gonna happen. So I told him to go back in, and you can see it's not really gonna happen because teal starts moving towards everything towards this flank. And I already said like, okay, we're probably gonna get a trip. I'm gonna get triple here, like 3v1. Okay, so here at this point, I think I made some slight misplays, but I think the fight actually traded well, but we didn't hold it. We couldn't hold this place because it was 3 players after all. So how do I start off the fight? Very first thing I want to do, Malice, and I think I Malice the Gauss. Yes, I Malice the Gauss because they are the most dangerous. They are going to try to kill all my cap ships. You can see here, there's quite a bit of Gauss, 32 Gauss. Okay, they will take down a cap ship very, very quickly. And you can see, so I Gauss, and then as soon as that happens, I will focus fire to Gauss. And then immediately, what do? I signal, I move all my cap ships away. Why? Because if you look at white, you can see he's basically targeting, focus firing my cap ships. Not too surprising, right? So you want to kind of like get like these pre-moves, because very often players I see, like they're gonna start complaining like, oh, my cap ship's not moving, because they are used to games like StarCraft, like myself, in which case you immediately could turn and move. But no, in this game, turning takes forever, and you can see all my ships are my capital ships are already turning in the right direction, so they're able to basically then get the heck out of dodge. And look, I'm able to pull the Gauss out of position, and this will be able to clear a good amount of the numbers up, thanks to Malice, right? I don't do as much damage, unfortunately, from the Malice because there are still a sizable amount of guards in the way, but I was able to kind of pull them out of position and do some initial damage already. Now at this point, I want to kind of like shift them up, so I can we could get all our Gauss turrets to fire here. But I also need to start cleaning up these pirate pillagers because I don't want this planet to get bombed out, right? So I'm going to shoot the pirate pillagers. I'm going to steal one of them and I'm going to sanctify the pirate pillagers. This part I had a bit of a micro mistake. I did. So you'll notice I'm moving these progenitor. I'm trying to move these progenitors away, right? I click on this progenitor, you can see it's trying to move away. But there is something I forgot about progenitors, which is when they do their auto cast, they seem to forget what order you gave them right before that auto cast. So you're gonna see here that this progenitor, see, you can see it's trying to tilt away a little bit, and then it just stopped moving. And unfortunately, this progenitor is done for because now it's really out of position, right? And the same thing's gonna happen to this rapture, unfortunately. So as I said, a bit of a misplay. I do get this other progenitor out, but this progenitor doesn't make it. See, you can see, look, I'm moving it away, did the autocast, and now it's turning back. So these are kind of behaviors that a lot of players who haven't encountered this and looked at their replays, they keep complaining like my ship's not moving, like they're dying so fast to these, especially because now, as I said, everyone's building missile boats. So like, why are they not following my movement, my retreat commands? Because of stuff like this. So you got to be a little careful, okay? But for me, I only have one thing that's on my mind, and that's this level 6 Rapture. I'm gonna try to find another Malice soon. I think I'm not paying as much attention. I'm not, as I said, I'm a little rusty, and I'm not getting a good Malice off. I think that was a good Malice earlier. That could have had it. Oh, I tried to get this clump, I think. So we can see here, I believe I try to cast a Malice, and then I try to move out. Yep, I cast a Malice over here. But I think it's on the Gardas. The Gardas are a little tricky to kill, but I think at this point you'll notice I'm starting to do Illuminators. So the Illuminator path tree, before you hit tier 3, you want to finish this. Okay? Because Illuminators actually have this as an annoying research requirement. I don't know why, but it can catch you off guard. So, once again, if you're going to tier 3, you want to have this while tier 3 is researching. So this way, as soon as you get to tier 3, you can get to Illuminators instead of having to wait for this. I'm letting influence stockpile a little too much here. That was just a mistake. And by the way, you might be wondering where the hell all this credit all of a sudden shot up from. Guess what? It was that Malice. Why? Looting crew. This will print money the moment you get level 6. And this is how you fund your entire Illuminator spam. Okay? If we look a little bit earlier at the fight, let's just rewind a little bit before I managed to, yeah, you can see that gigantic start jumping, right? Okay, I think it's around here. Sorry, this is going to be a little annoying. Okay, I say Kiara 3 coming. Yeah, so let's just fast forward a little bit. Okay, so I'm already getting a ton of money from looting crew. You could already see this just from regular shots and all that stuff. But that's not a big deal. You can see that like there's actually it does add. It's adding up pretty quickly. Okay, going. Yeah. Now I'm starting to spam Illuminators as I said earlier. I'm also trying to pick up purge vessels because I kind of wanted to cut around here, but I didn't have the luxury. And also, once again, I was a little sloppy. I'm not paying much attention. I think I was building like Tempests and actually no, I'm building Disciples and Illuminators. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going to happen with the first Malice. So once again, let's speed this up a little bit. What did I spend all my influence for? Oh, here. Okay. Okay, so this is Malice number 1, right? Look at that. Look at that. 1,000 credits right off the bat. And see, look, it just keeps going. This is crazy. 6,000 credits from the first Malice. And that wasn't even like a great Malice because I didn't get a whole lot of damage on these Gauss because these Disciples, they're terrible at shooting down Gausses that just ran past them. So a lot of this damage was only coming from the Tempests and my new Illuminators that are coming on in. Okay, if I got a good Malice proc off here, it would have done like I would have been up to like 30k probably. So alright, as I said, so I'm gonna try to like deal with this 3v1, but it was slightly a bit of a sloppy fight from my end. I think I could have probably gotten a better Malice off. I could have microed these chips a little bit better. So yeah, eventually I'm gonna have to retreat. So let's just kind of see how this plays out here. You can see here it's trying to just thin out as much of the crowd here as I could. But this was a miss micro, and this was a miss micro, so I lose two capital ships here, which was pretty bad. And Teal also has, X-Wing has his own Rapture, so he's stealing some of my Guardians. So this was not like a great fight, and I can see like where the tide is going. Now, in all honesty, I might have been able to hold out here a little bit better if we were able to also, if Blue was able to kind of stop these pillagers that basically snuck through and started ransacking his production worlds, because then Blue could have started sending reinforcements onto this flank, right? But you can see Blue basically completely clobbered everything on this side. But here's the issue: Blue has nothing to bomb planets, so even though X-Wing is kind of pressured in terms of like his fleet here, like it's okay. Even if he loses all of these orbitals, he doesn't mind, because this is gonna take forever for Blue to bomb down, especially because X-Wing started defending this up in advance. So at this point, it was kind of like a tricky situation. I will say my micro mistakes here, and the fact that I probably needed to have even more fleet here. I think maybe I just needed the fleet earlier. I have to think a little bit more about like what other decisions I could have made. Then maybe I could have held this, but this point, this was probably lost for this front. Barring, you know, some miracle, right? Maybe what I could have done is fund Blue at this, if I was, yeah, I should have just, no, actually, no, Blue's already maxed out here too. So yeah, but let's take a look at how, just kind of like the next few minutes, how things play out, okay? And I'm going to cover just some mistakes that I thought I made in the next few minutes. So hopefully you can learn from them and, you know, not make them yourself. So at this point, I said, okay, I can't take that yet. I'm gonna have to regroup. I need to get closer to where my production facilities are. So I'm gonna try to jump to my volcano, and then I noticed, there was a raid over here from the, and this was a huge mistake from my end, because what did I forget about? I forgot that these were rotating planet orbitals. So initially, when I looked at the spawn, I looked at where the Jiskun were, and the Jiskun raids in like a radius, and it didn't look to me like they were close enough to hit me at my desert planet. Now I could have been totally wrong. So what happened was then they did turn out to be close enough to hit my desert planet. I did have a single defense upgrade there, but you know, I can't stop this anytime soon. So what ended up happening was I recalled this fleet over here. And this was probably the other game losing move from my end. What I think I needed to do was split some of these things, some of these troops off to over here. Maybe something like, actually, maybe even this would have been enough. This probably would have been enough. 6 Illuminators, 2 Tempests, and then just start building Illuminators and Tempests out of here. It probably would have been enough to, oh no, I couldn't build Tempest out of here, because I forgot I destroyed my smaller factory because of the fact that I couldn't build different orbitals this way. But yeah, I think this probably would have been enough. I could have probably just recalled the fleet over here, and that could have cleaned all of this up. And what that would have let me do is I would have been able to maintain stuff over here, as well as also save blue's orbitals if they decide to jump into this volcano. So, as I said, probably the other big mistake I made here, right? So I do that, and when I do that, they green and white, of course, capitalize on my mistake. Green jumps here, starts pressuring this flank. White jumps here, and at this point, things are really looking bad. Why? Because also, green managed to sneak his pillagers, a group of pillagers, all the way here. Chinese pirate players are very, very good at being opportunistic in this scenario. And then he's trying to get around here. I'm obviously able to block him over here at this point. But still, the damage has been done. They have me split apart in two flanks. I am trying to make my way back from this asteroid to this asteroid to this asteroid. That was a really big mistake too. Instead of doing that, I should have went from here to here. When I was here, I should have went here, and I try to go through to this side instead of going from here. So definitely a few different tactical blunders on my end. And part of the reason I was committing to that was because I said, okay, all my production facilities are on this side. I want to try to get more ships out, and ideally try to death ball up as much as I can. Didn't quite plan out because my macro just wasn't as crisp this game. I was experimenting with different build order, and my planets I kept having to deal with raids in the back. So once again, have to do another recall. And this is one thing I've always mentioned before too. When people are talking about like, hey, Advent recall is really, really nice, I'm usually saying, Advent, if you have to recall as Advent, you're probably losing the game because it takes so long to move your fleet from one area to another. And as you can see here, now Blue and I were playing just full defense game, because even though we had a nice kind of like early advantage, this is a 3v2, and we made some some big tactical blunders. So this flank's unfortunately lost, but we'll show kind of like one last fight where Mounts and Looting Crude can like does a crap ton of damage. So let's just give it a little bit. Gonna try to skip up ahead. So there are some miscellaneous fights that's happening. I'm able to kill some ships and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, as I said, this flank is already lost because of some tactical blunders on my end, which I will attribute to rustiness. Okay, so we should be getting up to towards the final fight that of this replay soon. So I'm trying to tell Blue basically like, hey, what he can do, what are maybe some hopes that and unfortunately we just couldn't stop the pillagers from this. So I'm trying to make it here. I have a very sizable fleet. This fleet is actually very, very strong. I probably could have 1v1'd any other fleet at this point from a player in the game, but it just moves so slow, and I don't get the Sanct off in time, I believe. I'm not sure why I didn't get the Sanct off. I think it just went down so fast. Maybe this cooldown's not right showing. Maybe it was on cooldown. Maybe it was on cooldown. I might have wasted it somewhere by accident. Maybe this isn't actually showing because it's on cooldown. Okay. So, by the way, if you're wondering why I'm no longer building and spending, it's because they killed all my factories. And I couldn't set up a new one here because they also killed that too. They killed this planet when I was trying to set it up. So, alright, let's take a look at now, why I said Malice is quite a game changer. Okay, let's slow down this fight. Okay. So, as you can see, I am 1v2, right? Yeah, I'm outsupplied. My fleet is stronger, though, because I just have tier 3 cruisers. And let's see, I think I popped a Malice off on where? Which? I'm looking for it. I believe I'm trying to still look for a good Malice. Where is this shit? Cap, okay, yeah. So I just popped it, and I think it was on the yeah, it's on the Tempests. Yep. Okay, and then immediately I wanted, I know that this thing is gonna die, so I want to jump it out. I made a mistake here as well, and we'll talk about it in a bit, but look at what's gonna happen. Look at this credit looting group Malice credit pop up. And boom. Okay? That is what Malice does. And that's the main reason why I said you want to try to power level 1 to it. And what do? Because I knew it was going to get focused, I immediately run it out. And White was pretty smart. He knew. So, at this point, granted, I was a little, not paying attention. So I started, and he notices. Oh no, actually, it was Teal who first did it. Yeah, he realizes that, hey, what did I actually just do? Okay, yeah, I'm trying to run this stuff away. So White and Teal move some ships here, try to chase down my Rapture. So what I actually should have done here was I shouldn't have moved it here and not paid attention. I should have moved it here and immediately moved it back. Okay, shift Q it back as soon as it jumped here. Because why? White has this stupid skill called Concussive Charge on his Marza. So you can see I'm already trying to move it back into where the rest of my fleet is. But as I'm starting the phase jump, boom, Concussive Charge stops the phase jump. The Gauss kills it, and that's that. End of the level 7 Rapture. But you can see here, I did a ton of damage in terms of just killed capital ships, all that stuff. So if they had stayed here, they would have, of course, they would have lost their entire fleet. But whether or not I killed all the fleet or not, the game was over. So yeah, and that is the end of this replay review. So hopefully you found this helpful on some of the thought processes and also the idea behind the build, which was you start off with a 4-0, and then you start going towards military, aiming for hostility 3. You're going to start off with early Tempests, go towards Guardians, fill out a few cap ships. Ideally, what I would recommend is the Progenitor and the Raptures to basically grab more of them. A Radiance is not a terrible idea either, but you do have to be very careful with it. The goal of the Radiance is really just to keep your Raptures, your Malice Rapture safe by essentially suiciding itself with animosity when you see that your Rapture is out of position and you need to essentially taunt all the stuff to use the Radiance tank instead. So Guardians, and then once you get to Illuminators, you build nothing but Illuminators out of your Greater Factory. And as I said, very, very important, don't forget, as you are researching Hostility 3, make sure you are researching improved beam emitters. You want to have this finished research by the time Hostility 3 finishes so that you can research Illuminators right away. Other things that are important, max out your research when you are hitting tier 3, and ideally after you have picked this knowledge aggregation up, it will make your research tracks cheaper because that is how you can speed up getting Illuminators as soon as possible. So once again, hope this was helpful. This was a replay where I wanted to kind of talk about also mistakes that I've made in the game. So hopefully you could learn and avoid them yourself and you win your games. All right, thanks. Take care.